we're back with Gadgetplex and questions and answers for Phil May at Techno RV. First question for this segment. I carry a taser in my glove compartment. We've talked about tasers on the show in the past. It's legal in Illinois, but when we go up to Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, it's illegal to use it. Can I get into trouble for just having it in Wisconsin or in other states where use is prohibited?
Yeah, that's interesting. So it really was just that some of the interesting things that can happen in the states with all the different state laws. I mean, the good news about tasers is that unlike carrying a taser in an RV or in a vehicle, which can really lead you into big trouble if it's a state that prohibits a firearm, with a taser you have much less chance of getting into any difficulty. There are I think only 7 or 8 states where it's illegal. But the question really relates to the fact is, although it might be illegal to use a taser, is it illegal to possess one if you're just carrying it with it or through the state? And it's a good question, but unfortunately the answer is yes, it is illegal. I actually had to do some research here, but Chapter 941, subsection 295 of the code here for Wisconsin says that it's illegal to transport, manufacture, possess, or go armed in any way with one of these devices, and it becomes if you are arrested, then it's a Class E felony. So really not something that you want to do. It's best just to leave it at home, or what we say to people, if you're traveling in the RV through one of these states and want to be careful, then mail it to yourself at a campsite on the other side of the state, and that way there's no problem with mailing it. It's not classified as a firearm, so there's just mail it to yourself and then pick it up on the other side.
I got it. Okay, so you should not even have it, down in the basement compartments of your RV. Even there, it's a problem if it happens to be found for some reason.
Well, I mean, you then get into, well, what happens if it's unloaded and the battery's disconnected and the battery's in one place and you've got it in somewhere else, and so I guess it depends on the circumstances and who it is who finds you and why why they're searching the RV or whatever. But it just depends. I mean, to be honest with you, I don't worry. We tend to just carry ours and we'll try and wing it if keep them separate, but it does pay to be cautious.
Well, you need to be aware of it, and of course, just for the record, neither Phil nor I is a lawyer, so this is not legal advice here. But you do need to be aware that the laws vary from state to state, and if you're concerned, then do as Phil suggests: mail it to yourself in some other location where it would be legal as well. This kind of leads into another one here. This is almost kind of a funny question in a way, but it's is tasing the elderly inviting disaster?
It sounds like a new sport.
Yeah, right. But, right. We had an elderly tasing meet the other week at the rally.
If somebody, I mean, it's better than a double espresso, I think.
I guess maybe so. That's right. So what? How you worry about that, because there is. First of all, it is painful. But is there a danger of a greater sort than that?
Yeah, you need to bear in mind that, the taser is passing electricity through somebody's body, so it's not something to be trifled with. It is a serious thing to do, and potentially can cause problems. You need to go back and say the whole point of a taser is to protect yourself. So it is a form of self-defense.
Right.
Now, a taser itself doesn't actually, even though it's a high voltage, it doesn't deliver that much power. So if you compare it to something like a defibrillator, which I think we've got a little picture of, it's much less power than that. And so even if an old person has a pacemaker, those pacemakers are designed to withstand a hit 800 times more powerful, i.e. from a defibrillator.
Okay.
But the point is, really, if it's an old person, you need to look at the circumstances. If there's a way that you can retreat, then obviously you have an obligation to obligate that. I mean, hopefully, if you're younger, you'd probably just be able to run away.
Right.
But if you do, but in serious, if you do feel threatened, then you have a right to defend yourself from
Right.
anybody at any age. In actual fact,
That's right. If grandma's got a gun, you can still tase her if you have to. I love it. But okay, seriously, can a taser kill someone if I'm not careful how I use it?
I mean, theoretically, it probably could. Now Taser has had many lawsuits, but they've won 68 out of 68 of those cases.
Yes.
Where people will claim wrongful death. In a lot of instances, it's where the taser has been used inappropriately. I mean, I was reading there was one case where somebody tased a 14-year-old girl, which was just absolutely ludicrous. And these darts are sharp, and they go out with quite a bit of force. And in this case, it penetrated her skull, so that could have been very, very dangerous and could have killed her.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it's something to be used and respected and not trifled with, but to keep it in perspective. We all use electric out to the wall socket, sometimes with wet hands, without really thinking about it. It's not to be advised, but the 110 volt outlet is much more dangerous than a taser. It's potentially fatal in many different circumstances. So it's like anything; it needs to be put into perspective.
Right. Okay. What now? In terms of how it's used, assuming obviously self-defense is self-defense. You have to. It's pretty. Sounds like it's fairly justified in most of those cases. Can you tase someone who is stealing your car, for example, or stealing your property?
In most states, and again, I'm not a lawyer. I've only just really researched this, but from what I can read and what I understand is you are able to use reasonable and necessary force property to prevent the loss of your property. From what I read now, the question then comes into is what is reasonable and what is necessary.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to almost think about how is this going to play out after the fact. Somebody's stealing your car, you go on. As soon as you start making a non-violent situation a violent one, it would be easy for somebody to actually paint you as being the attacker as opposed to the other way around.
Sure.
How old was the other person? Were they armed? What was the situation surrounding? Did they need the car for some medical emergency? I mean, you just don't know. So again, my advice to people when we talk about tasers or in our seminars is whenever you're thinking about tasers, it's for self-defense of you or your loved ones or other people, protecting their life. In this country, human rights supersede property rights is what they say. So, if somebody's stealing something, best advice is to call the cops.
That's right. Okay. Try to get an identification. Okay. Perfect. Well, we'll close out this segment. We've got more questions coming up, and so stay with us here on Gadgetplex. We'll be right back. Got a question or comment for Gadgetplex's Phil May? Send him an email at gadgetplex@rvnn.tv or leave a voicemail for Phil at 877-578-RVNN, extension 703. Follow RV Newsnet on Facebook and Twitter, and you can receive text messages to alert you when we're streaming live by texting RVNN to 72727. That way, you can join us live in the chat room, ask questions, and become part of the RV Newsnet family. Remember, any photos or other material submitted to us become the property of RV Newsnet and cannot be returned. For more TV like this from the world of RVs, head to rvnn.tv.